Ah,
All right, going live.
cool.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're
Almost.
live. It says live on custom live stream, although on the other one it says still waiting.
No, the tube skis is going live in 3, 2, 1. We're there.
We're live.
We're live.
We're live. So live. My wife is.
I like the lights, Evan. Nice job with the patio.
Yeah,
It's my lady
good.
friend.
Good lighting.
Mute.
My lady friend. She's right there. My wife.
Lady friend, good job on the lighting.
Hey, do me a favor. Can you please tell your significant other, in case Jesse hasn't emailed her back? Jesse was going to send a nice email back because he forgot, because I reminded him. She was asking about Jesse making sure that I got down in October. Let her know that that Jesse is pretty useless on email. We love him, but he's useless on email most of the time. And it's all just get hold of Jen. It's always the easiest way. Jesse's about as organized as I am sometimes, and Jen's always the best one to get hold of.
Hear that?
Yeah, totally. And apologies, because, well, it's Jesse. Holy shit, who's been calling me? Jesse.
So Jesse's coming in October?
I don't know. To be determined. I don't know if I'm going over still. I've got to see. I don't know if we're doing the UK or not. I've got to wait to see when Mum's operation actually is, and then how much time she wants to recover before she wants me there, because it's a pretty significant operation she's going to have to go through, and Mum has already said she'd rather I didn't see her until she is comfortable, if that makes sense.
It does.
So she's
100%.
got she's got some reconstructive stuff they're going to have to do, some pretty significant shit, to be honest. So we'll see what happens. So it might be October, it might not be. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, Dell said that she would come and visit us in Nashville.
Oh, yeah, because she's actually moving down to that general neck of the woods. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can't remember. Somebody else said they would meet me there.
Yes.
I don't remember.
How do I get this stupid thing to pop out?
I don't remember most of the shit.
How do I pop out chat? There we go. Get the chat up so I can actually see what the smoke is going on.
We do our all team meetings on Monday, and it like never fails. You know, one of the things we start with is just kind of giving shout outs to, you know, people who did cool shit the last week. And I can never remember what the hell happened the week before.
It's true though. It's
all the time.
Well, so part of that is what we're going to talk about tonight. I believe the distraction factor, right?
Addiction. It's real.
It is.
Yeah, and this came about, you know, I mean, I think anybody who has kids, one of the things I've always kind of thought about is, you know, I was born in 1970. I'm 50 years old. I span kind of this age where when I was a kid, I didn't grow up with cell phones. I didn't grow up with, you know, mobile devices. You know, we did the rotary phone, right? You can try to watch one of the kids use one of those today, right? You know, they're completely clueless. And I still remember my home phone number from back in the day. It was 612-474-3766. You know what I mean? You just never forget some of those things. If we wanted to make a phone call, you had to have a dime, you know? And now, you know, you watch people and they're almost like zombies. You know, the situational awareness for people is completely gone. Their heads are in the phone. You know, they're at dinner. They're not paying attention to each other. In my own house, you know, my daughter, we'll spend some time together and then she's gone. She'll be up in her room watching TikTok and, you know, I mean, God knows what else. And, you know, all these things everything comes with, you know, everything's give and take, right? You give certain things for those things. And so, you know, I was talking to my daughter's boyfriend and his brakes are going out in his car. And I said, well, go fix them. He's like, I don't know how. And I'm like, what? You don't know how to fix brakes? So, you know, I taught him how to fix brakes, but then I got to thinking, like, are we giving up a lot of the practical stuff because we're so addicted to social media, so addicted to technology? You know, we bitch about, or not bitch, maybe we do, but how people just continue to plug new shit in without even thinking about the consequences of doing it. it seems like it's an addiction. I tried to take my phone, like my daughter, she broke her phone. And so she had to go without it for a day. And you would have thought she was going to die.
Yeah.
She had like physiological effects from it. It was like, what the fuck is going on with you? So I figured that'd be a good topic for us to discuss. And amongst all of that, where the fuck is security? We could definitely spend 2 hours on this topic, huh?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, where do we start? I love how we just all old men that too, by the way. We did. Well, you see.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we start with the intentional addictiveness of the social media, of the product itself being
picked by design,
engineered for maximum addictiveness, and then peddling it to children? That's one angle we could take. We could take the what's wrong with us as people so desperate for validation that we're getting it from a sound and a blink.
Yeah, and then there's this FOMO too, right? I mean, I think
that's for real. To mess around I have to know everything that's going on in the world every second of every day. And if I miss any of it,
right. I was on a phone call yesterday with New Jersey's CISO, and he asked me, hey, do you know about this thing? And I was like, fuck, I really want to say I do, but because, I'm in a sales call here, and I'm like,
yeah,
no, I don't. And he's like, oh, when he tells me all about it, and I was like, fuck, I feel like I should have known that, but damn, everything.
We can't. No,
right.
I'll no.
Yeah,
because I'll do the same thing, because people are like, oh, do you know, I mean, we get on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I think because people look, a lot of us in the industry, as the fact that, we've been in this bloody industry long enough, therefore we should know. Yeah, we know a fair amount, but holy shit, we don't know everything. I mean, good grief alive. Half the time when somebody says, hey, do you know about so-and-so? I have to go Google the bloody thing. I'm like, no, give me a minute. Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. See that hit the news or whatever. No,
yeah.
I can't be on 24/7 by 365. Oh, and by the way, and do my job at the same time, and process it, and look at it, and deal with it. Shit ain't just gonna happen just because you found some piece of news, especially breaches. Like, oh no, did you see that so and so got breached? No. I really just add it to the list of today.
Right.
Well, and I think we live in information overload.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that. I think there's some level of expectation that we maintain some social media presence, right? Certainly with you, Chris, I mean, your LinkedIn, you got a hell of a LinkedIn following.
Yeah.
Right. And so people, if you don't post something for a couple of weeks, people are probably like, what the fuck's wrong with Chris?
Oh, a couple of days.
Yeah.
Couple of days. Because I mean, I typically post almost every day during the week, and then typically at least once on the weekend, sometimes twice on the weekends. Saturday is normally the weight post, Sunday is something else, and then Monday is the whiskeys, watches, and work posts. Yeah, right. And so I lose a couple of days, and there are folks especially that are like, hey, everything all right? Where are you? Hey, we were looking for this. And I both appreciate that. For whatever reason, I've got a bloody good muse that manages to keep me keep the brain filled with all sorts of crazy ideas that I want to share. But if that ever dries up, I'm screwed.
Yeah. When you have a gift for being able to write like that, I think, I'm a fairly good writer, but it takes work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of time. And I know the same thing is with you, Ryan. But like this week, I don't think I posted shit. I mean, I haven't been on social media. I've been heads down trying to get revision 3 of, S2 org done, and working with a bunch of state CISOs. I just haven't had time to do anything social, really. But then I feel kind of like this, like, I don't know, anxiety. Like I should have, did you post something today? Did you do something? And I'm like, fuck no. But I think that's what other people feel too. This anxiety if you don't.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting? Okay, so I have an emotion that is probably similar to that, except that instead of anxiety, I just stop. If you guys watch my social media presence, it is sporadic as can be. It comes in bursts.
Mhm.
I'll be very active, and then I'll just disappear.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm done. I can't. I catch myself because I'm aware of this. I've identified this a couple of years ago. I'm like, my phone's in my hand too much.
Yeah.
And if I'm teaching my child that you can't live life walking through it like this, that's no way to experience or see the world. Better practice what I preach.
Here's a question.
But it's addictive as shit. So
Here's a question. Hang on. Here's a question on that though. So two things. I will do that on Twitter. I will take a break from Twitter for that exact reason. And I've changed how I deal with Twitter now, because I used to be that way. I would put all sorts of stuff up there, work-related stuff, fun stuff, personal stuff. And now Twitter typically for me is mostly the dogs and a few other things. I have realized to that point that Twitter is much more of an addictive thing. LinkedIn for me, I actually enjoy the sharing. I look at it as LinkedIn as actually being it's a platform to be able to share. So
Yeah.
I don't feel so, because I don't have LinkedIn. I don't have LinkedIn on my phone at all. I don't even have work email. I have no work email, no work calendar on my phone. My phone has 2 email addresses on it, and nothing, not much else, deliberately for that exact reason. So I have to sit down at the computer consciously, or even the iPad consciously, to engage. So that's the separation part for me.
Now, do you think it's different for us because we did grow up in a different generation where it doesn't feel like this is part of my DNA? You know, I mean, you could take my phone away for probably a week or more. I mean, you probably take it away forever. And I, you know, there'd be a little bit of an adjustment, but it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't freak out about it. And eventually I'd probably grow to love it because fuck my phone.
So,
But I think you do that with kids right now. I mean, if I took my daughter's phone,
Right.
oh my God, it'd be.
wait, can we make a distinction though for a second, gentlemen? Hold on. What we carry in our pocket isn't a phone. It's a full-blown supercomputer capable of making a call. We had phones. Phones had rules. Remember? You had a cord, it had a length. You could only go as far as that cord let you went. And what, you could get the 25-footer or whatever it was and hide out in the bathroom. But then somebody else in the
Remember
house,
that thing would always get all fucking wrapped up too, and you get all fucking
the big coil, right? But like, I think the problem is we call it a phone, but we use it, and we do use it to communicate, but it's such a different,
Right.
we live our lives on this thing. And
Yeah,
we
I don't make calls. I don't make calls at all.
Well, and we're on it constantly, where in the past, y'all remember a busy signal. You guys remember not being home.
Yeah.
Where is he? Not home.
You had one channel.
Where?
You actually had
No one
channel.
knows.
That's a really good point. You hit on a fucking, I know we had 2 channels. You hit on a really good point there. Back a long time ago, we had 2 channels. We had the phone, which was either working or not working, busy or not, and we had pen and paper. And that's it. 2-channel communication. Now, I mean, I'm sitting here at the iPad. I'm sitting here with the computer. I've got Krabek on Signal over here. I've got Jen, I've got Mo, I've got Dave, and I've got Jesse on text message over here I'm communicating with. I've got us up on top here, and I've got email down here. And that's before I even get to any of the stuff that's on here.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. One of the things we noticed, I noticed kind of along these same lines is where I'm from in Minnesota, it's a different culture than like down south. And down south, people to actually take the time to get to know you more. Here, everything is so damn surfacey in Minnesota. It's, hey, how you doing? And then if you go beyond that, it's awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but with social media, everything goes so much differently. Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, so actually so social media is an interesting one. Back to the addiction thing. Social media, I will keep an eye. I'll admit, I keep an eye on, like when I post something on LinkedIn, I'll keep an eye to see how it's trending and how it's doing. I do it because I'm intrigued to see how people will react to it, how many people think about it, if it's the right time of day, if I've done something more than once a day, all sorts of other things. But it is also, I'll be honest, it is also somewhat of a validation to go, okay, yeah, maybe I was on the right track, or maybe I was a complete. In some ways, I shouldn't really care, but for whatever reason, I do care. And I don't care because it's not the ego thing or anything like that. I think, but Twitter. I actually don't care. Twitter is interesting for me. It's almost the reverse. I just don't give a damn. I don't care if it's like 4 or 5 people or 10, 20 or 30 people or whatever the hell it is. Because I think I got 12,000 or so on Twitter and almost 30K on LinkedIn these days.
So part of why I think it's addictive is because it plays on the natural human instinct to be accepted and to be validated. Yeah. And if technology and the internet and multiple communication platforms and social media did anything for us, it was allow us to find our tribe of weird people. It's how I found you people, right? Real true story. It's how I found both of you guys.
Yeah.
Right. So that validation aspect can't be overlooked. Now, the problem is we've raised a generation of children that find their self-worth in the validation of the internet, which is a very dangerous, slippery slope, right? I mean, we've got kids wanting to get plastic surgery to look like their Snapchat filter. That's not good. That's a bad thing. It's a thing. You guys should Google this. Like, it's the craziest stuff. Like, they're literally trying to get plastic surgery to match the filter on the Snapchat.
Son of a bitch.
That's rooted in the fact that they get a dopamine rush.
Yeah.
And there's a study, Chris, start Googling, I'll Google too, but there's a study that showed cell phone use and heroin use produce the same response in the brain to the same level. And that's where that addictive piece comes from. And so when you mix that dopamine hit from the validation aspect, it creates a mess. And I'm a victim of it. You're a victim of it. We're all victims of it because inherent in our human nature is a desire to be accepted and validated by our fellow humans.
Yeah. Nomophobia. Researchers debate whether nomophobia is a related addiction to drugs stems from the caused by dopamine to flood the brain, which can trigger euphoria and a strong desire to repeat the experience. Researchers question whether the anticipational rush of receiving an email, text, or Facebook status update may also trigger a release of dopamine. This was, how long is this from? This is 2013. So we need to actually take a look at this, an updated version. But yeah, you're right. You're on the right track. And nomophobia, which is they're thinking that the release of dopamine from receiving email, text, Facebook status, or the stuff, any of this kind of stuff we went to say, it may trigger the same release of dopamine, the euphoria, and a strong desire to repeat the experience. So yeah, you're right. Totally. So yeah, nomophobia.
So that's where it gets interesting, because I think part of this is we have an incompatibility where digital's hijacking the analog human. The analog human gets that same dopamine rush from a hug or from a kind gesture or from, some other analog interaction. And those don't happen at the same volume or intensity as they do in the digital realm.
Right. I'm looking up stuff. I'm on my iPad, so I can't share video. And
I just shot another one. I just put it internally to us. If you want to share it, it's one of you guys who's got admins wants to share it with the general folks. And it's the addiction stuff. Is basically what we're talking about. Yeah, what is nomophobic? The fear of being out of mobile phone contact. The term is an abbreviation of no mobile phone phobia. Physical side effects: panic attacks, shortness of breath, dizziness, trembling, sweating, accelerated heart rate. Holy shit. I mean, that literally is coming down off of a high.
Mm-hmm. It's detox, man.
Yeah, no shit. They actually talk about cyber stalking and other stuff in here as well, which is
because we always gotta pepper in some pedophilia. Every time we talk about cybersecurity, we gotta throw pedophilia in the mix to get somebody's attention. Here's my problem with all this. We've known this, and this research was then weaponized to create a more efficient addiction cycle. Because the longer you sit on my Facebook, the longer you sit on my TikTok, the longer you're on my Snapchat, the more money I make.
Right.
That's a good point.
Money. M is for money.
Money, money, money.
Oh, there's a company, there's an organization here. What are they called? What is time to log off? Interesting. It's about us. It's called it's a time to log off.com.
The answer is yes. The answer is always yes.
53. So this was an older, this is early. So this is several years ago. They were saying 53%, this is the UK, 53% of English folks felt anxious when they lose their mobile phone, run a battery cell. I mean, that's back. That's probably way higher now. Yeah, well, that's interesting.
Here's 7 habits of highly addicted social media users.
Oh, geez. That's scary.
Number 1, you log in very often, wasting time with unproductive browsing. Number 2, you constantly check your notifications and update your status. Number 3, social media functions as an escape from the real world. 4, if you can't get on social media, you get very agitated. Number 5, you plan your social media posts in advance. 6, you get upset when your posts aren't appreciated. And 7, social media gets in the way of your real life connections.
So you do realize you just described a drug addict.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm thinking about myself, I apply that to myself, and, I'm not much on social media, but I do work a lot. I'm a work addict, so you take number 7, social media gets in the way of your real life connections. Work definitely does that for me. I can't tell you how many times my wife is like, hello? Like, what? Get your computer, just get to work. Let's get some shit done. That's not what she's saying, though. She wants to spend time.
Right.
And yours is more gentle than mine. Mine just pokes me with a cattle prod and says, enough. And every so often I go, not tonight. It's got to get done. That's all there is to it. And I work until 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But more often than not, we had a talk some years ago about that, by the way, which went a lot like this. I married you to be with you. And if all you're going to do is work and hustle and do these other things, then what's the point of being here? Your wife is much nicer. Not that mine's mean, just more authoritative.
Well, and tonight was about addiction to technology. So we've been talking about social media addiction. There's also the addiction to, the stuff I do with my job, right? I might be up, hours and hours and hours working on something, that maybe I don't need to be working on either, but it's part of that same addiction. You've got, people who are addicted to, their gadgets, those people that have to have the latest and greatest, as soon as the iPhone is released, man, they got the latest version. They've got, smart home, everything, and they look at everybody else who doesn't as though they're sort of inferior. You've got the addiction with business. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, if you talk to, CIOs, is they can't keep up. They can't keep up with the business demands for technology.
Right.
The business keep asking for more and more and more and more, and they can't manage what they already have.
Go back to something you said a minute ago, which is you would be up working on something. Here's my caveat on that one, because I know how my brain works, and I'm going to assume yours might be similar. And Brian, I'm going to assume yours is bloody similar as well. If I've got something kicking around there, I ain't going to sleep. It's not happening until I've run that rabbit hole down far enough that I can go, okay, I'm okay with it. So to me, I'm not going with an addiction. I just know how my brain works, and I know the only way sometimes to settle it is to run that rabbit hole. Even if it's, I've done a YouTube wander around, all of a sudden, railguns, perfect example. I've done this a few times. Railguns and stuff like that. All of a sudden you're like, well, how the hell does that actually work? I know in principle. So then you start digging down that rabbit hole and you can't shut it down. So then you start looking at it and then you're like, okay, I've got capacitors here, and you basically, I've mocked the stupid things up a couple of times and various other things. I'm like, okay, now I'm happy. I know enough. I understand enough. Great. Now I can lock that away and put that to bed. And now I can settle. Otherwise, shit ain't going to happen.
No, that's true. And I do enjoy it. I mean, but I think drug addicts probably enjoy drugs too.
I don't consider that, and to me, it's not an addiction.
I'm going to go with Chris on this.
But sometimes for me, it is an addiction. Like there are times I go down the rabbit hole, like you're saying.
Yeah.
and those are fun times. But then there are also times where it's like I have to get, I just have to get shit done. And when you're the CEO, I'm not accountable to anybody. I mean, I'm accountable to everybody, but they don't really, where's my thing? Where's my thing? Where's my thing? This is due then. So you always have this like constant, like, fuck, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. What should I be doing?
You're accountable to yourself. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like with Hillbilly Hit Squad. To me, same thing. I'm accountable to the folks that work with me, but I'm also accountable to look at myself in the mirror and go, did I do what I could have done today? Did I accomplish what I set out to accomplish? If I did, great. And if I didn't, why not? Is it because I wasn't focused or didn't do something? Is it something that was out of my control? Have I compensated for it? Or what is it? So to me, it's accountable. I look in the mirror, or I'm same thing. It's like, I'll sit down here at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, do I feel like I can step away? Have I settled everything down? As well as I do. During the day, it's tactical. I mean, it's pure tactical. And evening times, after everybody's settled down and the house has gone to sleep, evening for me is strategic. It's, what did I miss during the day? What do I need to catch up on? What do I need to get alerted on? What do I need to get sorted out? And how can I get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah. You and I work a lot like that.
Yeah. And I don't look at that as an addiction. To me, maybe it's the addiction to work, which is.
No, you guys are addicted to accomplishing.
Ooh, okay. That I will actually, I'll actually accept that one.
Work is simply the method by which you get shit done.
Right.
Some of us have a get shit done gene in us. We have to do things,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm very diverse in the things I do. You guys are a little more narrow focused. You have some diversity to your activities and things, but you definitely invest a lot more time in the specific things you do, where I'm playing with Legos, I'm welding shit, I'm fixing cars.
I
just have such a broad, shotgun, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's getting shit done. And I see that in both of you guys. And I also see that in a lot of ADHD and ADD people, unless they're like the full stack ADD, where they got the bad side of the deck and none of the good.
Yeah.
And I feel for those people. My heart goes out to those people.
Big time.
But yeah, rabbit holing and feeling that accountability pressure and all that, that's what men are made of. I don't mean that to sound sexist, and I'm sorry if it did, but it's like, yeah. I don't know. I just feel, but I also think that's generational, guys. I think that if I take the average young man today and I hold him up against, me at a teen year, or you guys at a teen year, right? Or just that generation as a whole, we were a much more capable group. Saw an internet meme. I shared it with you guys. It said 50 years ago, the user's manual on a car told you how to adjust the valves. The user manual on a car today tells you not to drink the battery.
I saw that one.
Right? Like, and that didn't come from nowhere. We know it costs money to print stuff. So
shit. Yeah, no, totally. Darwin, unfortunately, isn't allowed to continue to just weed out the
But I think part of that is the technology. I think it started with the AOL chat rooms. And when people couldn't find their people out among their local community, that's how we wound up with a bunch of basement trolls. You guys remember this, right? We lived through the whole, like, when video games weren't cool and sexy. And if you played video games, you did it in a dark hole in the basement with your LAN party and your other unshowered friends, and you ate a bunch of pizza.
Cheetos.
Right?
All our keyboards were orange.
Yeah. Hey, W.
Screw you and your AOL chat room. I got my CompuServe chat room.
That's right.
I finally found it. This is
CompuServe.
And not only I have my, I actually still have my ID in there from CompuServe. So I'm not going to share that because that's incriminating evidence. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you might want to burn that.
Yeah, this is from the UK. Join CompuServe free with this special offer. I'm going to put my glasses up. £5.
Is there an expiration on that? You should join it.
Say again?
Is there an expiration date? If there's not, you should join it.
Unlimited use of 80 of the most popular. Oh my God, I forgot about this. 80 of the most popular services, including up to 60 email messages a month.
Wow.
60
emails and messages a month. You get news, magazine, communicate. I mean, this is awesome. Oh my gosh, I forgot. Novell. I got double A, entertainment, IBM. Yes, see, there we go. A whole
That's good
60 email, and you get a whole 60 email messages a month.
60 a month.
Yeah.
That's 2 a day, Chris, on average.
And that brings back memories, man.
Connection charges. So monthly membership, £5.45 after your first 3 months. A 300 to 2400 baud modem is free. Extended service is 5 pence a minute. 9600 to 14400 baud is 10 pence a minute. So faster the modem, the more you pay.
Damn.
Oh my god.
Wait, did you just say the faster the bandwidth, the more you pay?
Yeah, this is a 300.
Wait, that's still true. They found that model worked.
Yep. I don't know if this has got an
That's
expiry
crazy.
date on it. Oh yeah. Oh my giddy aunt. CSUK 1194. How many people are watching this today and weren't even born when I actually had this? Oops, I shouldn't show the back of it either. When I actually had this.
Well, according to Google, not many. They say our demographic is middle-aged men,
Oh, it is. Oh, no,
according to our
surprise.
stats.
There's so much shit. There's so much shit that, yeah. When I first started kind of writing what we're going to talk about tonight, and I started going with like technology from 1970 when I was born to today, right? What were the things that kind of happened each one of those years? And, holy shit, man, it brought back a lot of memories, like Pac-Man in 1980 that was released. And I can remember going to the arcades and playing Pac-Man. A whole roll of quarters would get me by
Oh
for
my
an
gosh,
entire day.
yeah.
That was the bomb. That's where we used to hang out. And yeah, you play video games, but it was a social interaction. You had friends there and you would hang out and you'd, go get in trouble, go steal stuff from people.
Sorry. Get in touch with over 20 million other electronic mail users around the world. Send fax or telex messages directly from your computer. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Holy shit. Sorry.
You said arcades, Evan, and
Yeah.
my arcade experience was a little different. It was when I discovered the free play button. If you had a little bit of a coat hanger with certain bend to it, you could kind of pop it in and go ahead and open the door, flip the switch, and
You didn't even need some of those early ones, you didn't even need a coat hanger. You could use a driver's license, it was just slide it. It was so easy. And then they got a little bit better, and then you could pick the locks, and then they got those round ass weird shit locks, and that made it a little bit harder.
You can still pick a barrel lock. It takes a little bit more skill.
Harder. It was harder, and it was harder to do it without detection.
Right.
Without somebody walking by and, what are you doing?
Yeah. That was the fun thing. I mean, I gotta be honest, the bulletin boards were fantastic for that.
Oh yeah, BBS was the
oh
shit.
my gosh, so much goodness out of those things.
And what was Usenet? Usenet, I think, because I saw that today. Usenet was, I think, started in '88.
Or was it
Something
that
like
late? That actually surprises me. I thought it
No, let me find out. It might have been earlier,
yeah,
but I saw it when I was
surprises
doing
me.
all this research shit.
I still have my IBM Usenet account. I still got my AOL. I apparently still have my CompuServe.
Oh, the idea was '79. It launched in '80.
Yeah, that sounds more.
Yeah, I remember that. I stole my first. I stole a copy of Windows 95 from Microsoft on a bulletin board.
God,
I was the first kid.
How long did that take to freaking download?
Oh God, forever. It was like 3 days. It was 3 days. It was 26 floppies. But I was the first kid. This is what my motivation was, though. It wasn't money.
Right.
I was going to be the first kid, in my group that had Windows 95.
That's cool.
And everybody else would be like, "Oh man, that's so cool." So you did it kind of for those bragging rights.
Yeah.
There's still some of that today, but most of it's
I think a lot of it today, it's in our industry, it's like the latest distro, or it's building your own distro, like Linux distros or whatever. There's that, there's that kind of, rite of passage, which is I'm going to basically build my own distro with my own tools on it and do this stuff. And at some point, you're like, I'm done with that shit. I'm just going to go get, take your pick as to which one of the distros you want to get that's got the best tools on it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some of that. But yeah, I do remember. I mean, good grief. I remember the early board days when we were, you get the latest game, especially off the front of the magazine. I ran a paper round for years. And I remember,
Check that out. The Oregon Trail.
No way. Oh my good grief.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so.
Oh, it's on a
freaking
little,
cool.
that's nice. Little emulation.
Yep.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh, that is absolutely fun to. Oh, that is totally
And
cool.
it's in color.
Damn, you're all.
Yeah.
You're
I was a
all,
little disappointed actually.
So how old were you?
I wanted the original. I wanted it in monochrome.
right.
I was in 4th grade. The first time I played Oregon Trail. It was the big ass fucking thing with the modem where you put the whole headset in.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that was at school. That was the only place. Nobody had computers at home then. That would have been 1978, 9. PCs were just kind of coming out then. I think the first, kind of mass production was probably that Commodore VIC-20 or whatever in 1980.
Well, we had, so in the UK, we had the Sinclair Spectrum, ZX80 and ZX81. You had a similar thing over here. Timex or somebody did like a version of the Sega S80 and ZX81. And then after that, it was like the VIC-20, Commodore 1632, Commodore 64, Commodore 128, then the Atari systems coming along at the same time as well that you could boot out to DOS and do stuff on. Because I had those were confiscated. So mine were confiscated in 85, I think 84, 85. I had mine, the first ones were confiscated. And that was the Commodore and the Atari and the damn modem couple were taken. But
my favorite game back then in the 80s was on the Apple II was Olympic Decathlon. Did you ever play that game?
Oh, God, the freaking button movements on those stupid
As fast as you can go.
Oh, I used to love that game. That was good. I mean, I've still got my like Leisure Suit Larry and all those ones. I still have all those games. I was really fortunate, like stupidly fortunate. I got to meet Douglas Adams, and he actually hit a bunch of us on the early boards because he was building the game at the time, and not just the standard game.
Cool.
He was also building the Starship Titanica game as well. He had, if you remember the Douglas Adams, eventually the Starship Titanica's got like one paragraph about how it disappears. He made a whole book on it, and he was building a whole game on Starship Titanica. So there were a bunch of us that were kind of helping do some work on that one. So really fortunate on that. And so those were like the early days of just the collaborative stuff. It's totally, totally cool.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of the addiction, was that fucking Olympic Decathlon. I don't know how many hours I spent playing that damn game.
Oh my gosh. There we go. Yeah.
You guys are a couple of years ahead of me. My first was an IBM XT.
Oh yeah. I had one of those too.
And as a young kid, you don't think about stuff. And so I ended up getting rid of some of the older gear as I was getting newer towers. And now all I want to do is put like a modern liquid cooled system inside an old school case and then have the big red paddle. You guys remember the big red paddles on the power supplies? Bang!
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Damn, those are beasts. I still have, I've got the X86 one down here. Still have that tower. You want to use the tower? I got a serious tower here if you want to beat the beastie. I still have what I would love to do, and one of these days, famous last words, one of these days I'll do it. I've got a ZX81 here. What I really want to do is map the keyboard effectively, but basically put an Arduino or a Raspberry inside the darn thing, rock up to a pen test, get out the ZX80, work out how to plug it into a computer screen, and break into the company using the ZX81. Break into the company and just look at them and go, Just
Yeah,
walk
right.
out, just
Yeah,
gone.
that'd be awesome.
Bust out your Motorola brick to get your Wi-Fi connection. Hold on, guys. I gotta get some internet here.
There we go. There
Well,
now
so
inside the darn thing, you've got a bloody, a freaking Verizon hotspot or something. But yeah,
Right.
oh my gosh, that
Getting
Well-
5G off the brick.
well, so back then, you
would
guys,
be
we
hilarious.
back then we were the exception to the rule, right? Most people didn't have computers in their homes.
What's a computer?
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. All my friends wanted to come over to my house to see this Apple II or, the Commodore. To be like, wow, what is that thing? How do you, but we had this kind of social interaction shit. And then I remember the first time where people could contact me when I wasn't by a landline was, you get your beepers. Remember the beepers?
Mhm.
The little whatever. And then, but even then I'd get a beep and then I'd have to call you, right? All I'd get was a number. And then eventually you could get messages on there. And then eventually, I don't know, my first cell phone was probably, shit, man. It had to be in the 90s sometime, 95 maybe.
Yeah, if you were doing it for business, if you had business back then, for sure. Because mobile phones were, for the super rich, were available in the early 80s. And then the consumer market really broke free in the mid-late to late 90s.
Yeah.
So the consumer market actually kind of opened up. But
it was, an ugly Motorola looking thing. And then you had the flip phones.
oh yeah, here's my beeper, baby. I could buy it on eBay right now.
Oh no way.
I loved my beeper, man. I had
This was mine all day. I had the Motorola.
oh hell yeah. Because you could get different color
Cases,
my-
yeah, because remember there was
Yep.
the kiosk at the mall for a while where you could go get your custom beeper case.
Jeez, I've forgotten about those bloody things. I remember skipping a few of those across various different bodies of water when you used to get really fed up with them.
I can't believe it's worth $20.
well, it's a relic now,
Of a bygone era.
I
Back
bought
when
a bunch of them.
back when you used to have to wait to get a hold of somebody. Back
And the
when you have to work to get a hold of somebody.
Does the technology is still there for it to work too.
Yeah. It's just radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, did you ever have this experience? You were in your youth, or maybe even a little bit in your adulthood, and you would visit a friend. Maybe you did a drop by, right? Just to pop in, see if they were there.
A drive by?
Or the phone was busy. You'd call and the phone was busy, so you headed over and they weren't there. And then you had to figure out what to do. Right? You had to leave a note.
Yep.
Leave a message with mom or the sister or somebody, and then you had to figure out what to do from there.
Oh man. Yeah.
I remember that.
I will say I like technology because I don't get lost as much. GPS has been helpful to me.
Well, yeah. Remember that? Maps. Maps you had to
Maps
hold on.
suck, dude. Had the King's map book and you're trying to look up grid shit like you're calling in an airstrike.
And then what was that other one that was in a binder? Do you remember that
The
one?
triptychs. In this country, I remember when I first came to the US, I remember you used to be able to go on AAA and you got the triptychs or whatever they call them. And it was you basically were able to flip over the damn page to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a theory that MapQuest was actually founded by the inventor of printer ink.
Yep. I can see that.
Because you remember you had to print that shit out, man.
Oh yeah.
Take it with you. Totally. That was the beginnings of getting away from the map book and relying on the technology for the navigation. And then there were all those stories in the beginning about people taking lefts into lakes. Remember the early GPSs?
Yes. And we got the same shit we got the same stuff this day and age. There's still people this day and age that blame their Tesla or blame their navigation on their Apple or their Google for doing that shit. Hey, I need water and I need to pee because I didn't do it when I first came down. And I need to quickly call Jesse. So I'm going to do all three at the same time. All right. I'll be back and you guys keep nostalgia, but we probably need to go back to addiction and nostalgia at the same time. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So how are you going to do it all three at the same time?
Talented.
Yeah. Shit. All right.
Got to practice.
So yeah. Well, so things, a lot has changed in our life, in my lifetime. And I think even, and it's hard for me to relate to like, nowadays you see like, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids with iPhones, and it's almost like become part of like their DNA. But then we kind of joke about it because we're part of this older generation. And I wonder what the trade-off has been. Like if you took that away, would they even be able to function? I remember, having to troubleshoot things by trial and error, right? I remember having to troubleshoot things without Google, where you actually had to dig in and figure out how this fucking thing works if I'm going to fix it. And nowadays people Google it. You don't actually understand how the fucking thing works. You just Google the solution and you just went with it. And you see a lot of pen testers today who are out pen testing. They don't know how the tools actually work. They just know how to use the tools, which to me, being an old school kind of guy, it's like, that's dangerous to me. There's danger in when I click this button, I think I know what's going to happen, but if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, I don't know how to fix it.
Right. Well, part of that goes back to the whole complexity thing, right? The tools are more sophisticated. The steps, we've automated so many of the steps that you used to have to do manually, right? So I think part of the addiction too, though, is that there's that gratification factor, right? So I Google it, I fix it, I get a high from fixing. That's why people work in industries to fix things. But I also think that there's been a dumbing down, not just in the computer world, but think about like auto mechanics. They don't fix cars, they swap parts. Nobody's diagnosing anything anymore. You just go in and they plug in a computer and it tries to tell them what the other computer thinks is wrong. And then they switch parts until they figure out the computer's broken or they solve the problem, right?
Right. Or they flash it, right? Hook it up.
But I think the way that the systems are built and the speed at which this world is currently moving necessitates that convenience factor, right? I can't get done. If you were to take Google and some of the convenience factors out of my day right now, I can't get done the amount of stuff I'm getting done. If I had to take time to actually go dig deeper versus getting what I need off the surface to be able to move the goalpost.
Right. Because I used to get intimate, man, and it's intimate in not the sexual way, but just intimate with the technology that I used pre-Google, right? Meaning I knew this shit so well that you could almost sense it when something was wrong before. And I would take offense. I would actually get offended. I would feel like I was deficient in my job when somebody had to call me to tell me something wasn't working, or to call me to tell me that performance was degraded, because it was my job to fucking know that before you knew that. And so now it's like this, I don't know, man, and I don't know if and I'm kind of torn on whether it's even a problem, because, the practical things. I mean, like, let's say we lost power, right? What would
me and you, we're fine.
Like the electrical grid. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I would be fine.
Yeah, that day's coming soon. So let's talk about next week.
so I mean, like, what the fuck's going to happen then when people can't have their phones, when people can't have Google, when people can't have their map quest or their Google Maps, Apple Map?
Very concerned for what will happen. I've seen some early glimpses of what happens when people get blacked out from things. Imagine how your daughter reacted. Now amplify that to your community.
Right.
You had a broken phone. You saw what happened, what transpired. She's not alone in how she responded. Amplify that across your community, amplify that across, whatever the outage is. Now, older adults are going to fare better. The older the adult is, the better they're going to fare.
Older adults who are armed.
Yes, some. Because some of them who are armed will wind up shooting themselves or their family on accident. Or, not everybody with a gun should have a gun. I'm just saying.
Well, and if you do have a gun, practice regularly.
Right? Yeah. yeah, it's not going to be good because we have built a dependency, and we've already seen this. What happened to the gasoline? Gasoline turned off. That wasn't a valve problem. That wasn't a pump problem from the mechanics of how valves and pumps work. That was a computer chip problem that we chose to computerize that pump, computerize that valve, computerize that system. And when that computer component failed, the rest of the physical infrastructure went with it. And so the gasoline didn't come out the other end of the pipe. And you saw how people behaved. My favorite video from that whole debacle is the moron with the pickup truck filling the bed of his pickup truck with gasoline. And then when the people behind him were filming him and going after him to call the cops because this moron's got a truck full of gas, he loses 3/4 of it trying to speed away.
I know. And the other one with gas in the trash bags. Like, what the fuck?
So that's
not practical shit though. Where like, if you would have done that in my time, I mean, you just wouldn't. I mean, you never
the
saw
gas
that
station
kind of
attendant would
shit.
have come and whapped you with the squeegee. You'd have got hit with the squeegee until you stopped pumping the gas into the trash bag.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's another thing that, and this is a side thing. I don't think it's related. Well, maybe there's some relation or correlation here, but it's this lack of accountability. You know, people do shit and it's like, man, whatever. I guess you be you. It's like, well, but that's fucking stupid. Is anybody going to tell this guy that that's stupid? Or are we just going to laugh at him? Or just like, whatever.
Okay, so actually that's a really good point. You're right. X number of years ago, we would have walked up and said, hey, probably not the smartest thing to do, or a variation thereof.
Right.
Nowadays, we fucking video and put it up on
I was
YouTube.
about to say.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
You see
exactly.
the same thing. You see the same thing happening with like fights, right? You watch a fight on YouTube, or not a fight. Well, yeah, it'd be a fight. Like on Twitter is probably where it's more common, where like there's a beatdown at McDonald's because somebody didn't get their fries or some shit, and people are sitting there filming it. And I'm like, why isn't anybody fucking stepping in and breaking up this fight? You know, I don't know.
Because so a couple things there, right? The breaking up of fights started getting discouraged when I was in school. I was on the tail end of it's okay to kind of scuff it out a little bit on the, you know, they don't let it go on too long, but you know, hey, they got in a little tussle. All right, hey, break it up. Yeah. Then it started to become, oh no, we're pressing charges.
Right.
This is assault, you're going to jail. And so that spewed out of the school systems into the communities, into you can't spank your kids, into and then all of a sudden it's don't touch nobody at all, because if you do, you might get sued. And you know, Evan, we live in Minnesota, the state where if a burglar breaks in your house and cuts himself on the glass while breaking into your house, can sue you for his damages.
Yeah, you can't sue him if he's dead, though.
I mean, that's the thing. At that point, now you're encouraged to just deal with the situation yourselves with a fucking shovel and a bucket of lime or a pig farm, for crying out loud. It's like, yeah, yep. That I just don't get. That to me absolutely astounds me. I just can't see the logic in that one in any way, shape, or form.
So oh, sorry, go ahead, Ev.
No, I'm thinking how much of the divisiveness of our country right now do you think is associated with technology? The fact that we can get this technology right away and it's fed to us the way it's fed to us?
80, 90%?
Most, yeah. I'm up there, most of it. Yeah. I mean, I think part of it, you know, there's a plus and minus. The awareness to certain things, I think, is a necessity. Mm-hmm. Knowing that certain things are happening, knowing that certain things are going on. Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. Were we better off ignorant? Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, you know, because back in the day when, you know, something happened in San Francisco, unless it was super catastrophic, you never heard about it here in Minnesota because the news just never got to you.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's instant news all the time, in your face, everything, everywhere.
But how much of that's useful? I mean, because there's an element to say,
yeah, I don't know.
there is an element to say you're up in MSP neck of the woods. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean, in the last year and a half, 2 years, you've been at the forefront of the news because of the world, especially the US, has learned that there are elements of our authorities which overstep their mark. No two ways about it.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, that's taken front and center as opposed to the entirety of the rest of the elements, which are doing their damnedest to actually put the best foot forward they possibly can in ridiculously adverse situations.
Right.
So, but the problem is we hear and we see only about the negative. Now, there's an upside to that, which means, hang on, well, I'm not just seeing it in my town. I see it here and I see it here. It's systemic. Therefore, how do we deal with it? So there's an element to say, hey, we need to deal with that.
Yeah, but buddy, that can be an op-ed piece put together by my local.
Totally.
Well,
I don't need the live stream of the constant deluge
agreed.
of negativity. That's only negative because we know that human beings respond, 35% more strongly to a negative than they do to a positive. And you invoke an emotional reaction, you cause confusion. So let me get you fired up. And then here's some advertising.
Well, I swear, man, and I don't know if this is a generational thing. I don't know if my grandparents and my parents thought the same thing I'm thinking now. But I swear the world has gotten dumber.
Mm-hmm.
We are not thinking critically. Yes, we can do technology things that we've never been able to do before. But I'm talking as a whole, not these people that can invent new cool things that we all use. That's definitely advanced, but I'm talking just like the ability for people to put fucking thoughts together, put things into context. So when you talk about the news that I get every day, and this is one of the things that drove me fucking nuts about COVID, spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet was trying to put this into context. Is it really as bad as it seems? Because at the very beginning, you thought we were all dead. Just pack it up, right? Don't get near anybody because you're going to die. And then, as things started to, you put things in the context a little bit better, you can figure that shit out. But people don't do that. People aren't discerning. They take the shit spoon fed over and over and over again. Somebody who watches, MSNBC swears to God that is the truth. Somebody who watches Fox News swears to God that that's the truth. No discernment, right? Because I can watch Fox News and I can watch MSNBC and use some, discernment and filter out the bullshit. But I don't know if people can do that like they used to.
I was looking for a quote as you were talking. I was looking for a quote. I didn't find the exact one I want, which I'll find in a second, but I found the other one that I wanted to find. Governments don't want a population capable of critical thinking. They want obedient workers, people just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to passively accept their situation.
That's yeah, there you go.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. George Carlin, bless his cotton socks. There's another one that I want to find, which is something like populations increasing, critical thinking is a static number or something like that. I'm going to see if I can find it effectively. I'll see if I can dig it out.
Well, what's fascinating about that?
Because that place. Oh, go ahead, man.
Oh no. Well, I was just going to say what's fascinating is that a lot of people look to people in our industry as being wealthy or well-to-do. And we're so far away from the next rung on the ladder, like millennia away from the next rung on the ladder. It's like, they've got all of us fooled.
Well, that's the thing. One of the things, one of my biggest frustrations is here I am, 25, almost 30 years into this industry, and I'm still preaching the same shit that I was preaching 25 years ago. And what I can't figure out is why you don't fucking get it. Why you don't get that, the basics, the fundamentals are so fucking important. Not only are they important, but they're cheaper than the shit you're pissing your money away on. They're more effective. So you complain about ransomware, you complain about, phishing attacks and all these other things, and you want to do zero trust architecture. You can't do fucking zero trust without the basics. So I don't know how the fuck you're going to get there, and so it's like this think. You have people running companies that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars that can't fucking think. And I wonder how much technology plays in all of this, right? They just rely on the shit they're getting fed all the time. I know. Fuck.
Well, part of that, okay, so I had an interesting conversation with a professor yesterday on a similar topic where in the education system, we're not teaching them to think. We're teaching memorization. We're teaching standardized tests that say there is always a singular binary right or wrong answer to the question. When you do that, you don't empower them to have those critical thinking skills. You don't empower them to be able to question the question, to be able to have any kind of metacognition about what's going on, which unfortunately is fundamental to wrapping your mind around information security. You have to have some degree of competency for abstract thought, for metacognition, right? You have to be able to see the systems behind the component, right? Or at least know that there are systems behind the component.
Where the fuck's the logic?
We're not teaching that. So they're actually writing a dissertation paper on how we've basically broken K-12 and using cybersecurity thinking is how we can fix it.
Yeah, Blankenweb, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about today, right? That's really cool shit because we got to break out of this fucking shell because I think where it leads, because when you can't, fuck, man, I mean, logic just seems so natural to some people who have it. And then you look at people who don't have it, right? Because the guy who was putting gas in his pickup truck thought that was a fucking logical thing to do, right? The guy who,
No, okay, so at that point in time, logic's gone out of the window. That's fight. So here's the thing: that's not logic. That's fight or flight. That's
maybe, but at some point, logic has to enter into the equation. Like I'm putting gas into the back of my pickup truck,
but I'm not actively holding a firework, so it's perfectly okay.
Exactly. There's no naked flame. There's no open flame. I'm fine.
Okay. So what's the difference then between him doing that and justifying it, and me looking at it going, "You're fucking nuts"? It's a lack of logic, isn't it?
It's a critical thinking. It's a lack of critical thinking.
Because he's not thinking about the step after the step.
There we go. Exactly. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. That's it.
The liquid
Which
gas.
is logic, right? I mean, critical thinking is essentially logic.
No, I'm going to argue differently. I think logic is the ability to make the square peg fit in the square hole and the round peg to fit in the round hole. That's logical. This one goes here and this one goes here. I think critical thinking is, how could I change the square to make it fit in the triangle hole?
Really?
No, but you use logic for that too.
You do use logic, but I think the skill set's different. I think logic plays into critical thinking because part of critical thinking then is logically evaluating your conclusion or your thought. So you work through that mental process of unpacking the idea, right? But but the critical thinking itself is an act of metacognition, where to me, logic is an act of binary application of outcome. So you're able to go, does this fit? Yes or no. Does this fit? It's more of a linear path, more of an if-then structure to logic, where critical thinking is more of
the official? Logic is the science of how to evaluate arguments and reasoning. I like that idea. Critical thinking is a process of evaluation which uses logic to separate truth from falsehoods, reasonable from unreasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So yeah, the logic, yeah. I mean, it sounds logical to fill up the back of a truck with gas. Great. It's an amazing sized container. Mm-hmm. Critical thinking is evaluating whether that logic is sound or if you've just made a 50-gallon bomb or a swimming pool full of, I mean, there we go. That's actually a really nice way of putting it. I do like the square peg round hole theory though. To me, I actually prefer that version of it, which is, I like the logic, and critical thinking is how do I actually make one fit in the other?
Right. Yeah, solving problems.
That's just math.
Yeah.
Right. Problem solving is key, but problem solving also requires thinking.
Through. Actually, it is quantum. Fuck you all. Quantum algorithmic architecture, I can actually, with quantum engineering, I could make the square peg fit in a round hole. Ha!
For sure.
I have to go do that. I have to.
Great.
Yep, he's gonna be up all night.
Fuck, I have
Sorry,
to.
Chris. I tend to do that to you too often, don't I?
I love it. No, it's fun. I love it because that's probably going to be tomorrow's post. Is going to be square peg in a round hole will work.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, all right. We'll noodle on that one. I'm not doing that tonight. I refuse to. Tonight, what am I meant to be doing tonight? I have no freaking clue.
But I think so. If you take lack of critical thinking and combine it with a smartphone, you get an addicted zombie people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's part of the fear, man, because if I'm not a critical thinker, if I'm illogical or whatever, I'm so much more open to manipulation. I'm so much more open to being taken advantage of. That's where we started the conversation before we even went live, was how much we hate people taking advantage of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's really easy to take advantage of you when you're not thinking. And that's why situational awareness is so important. You see somebody walking down the street with their head buried in the phone, I'm thinking,
you did it to me this evening. It's not just not thinking, it's distracted. You perfectly nailed me this evening. Let's be perfectly honest. And I got no problem admitting to it. You perfect this evening. I was distracted. I was late to the meeting. I was doing a bunch of other things. I was trying to get a few other things doing. I needed to pee. I realized everything. And you got me. And that was a perfect example of doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and it's no wonder why people click on links. It's, in phishing emails. It's no wonder why people do all this shit, because I think they're all distracted too.
They are.
It goes back to what Ryan said right at the beginning. You either got a dial tone, or you got a busy signal, or you wrote a letter. So really, it's two channels of communication. This evening, while we were getting sorted out, I realized I'd rebooted the computer because it had a whole bunch. So it was firing itself up. I was trying to deal with a bunch of things. I realized I had 7 messages on the phone, and totally done. I would have clicked on some fucking link. No, my luck.
Yeah. So there's definitely downfalls to this addiction. I mean, I think, would anybody argue that there's not an addiction? Would anybody argue that, at least with the population, where we live in the United States, where, in most places in the United States, everybody's on a damn phone?
It's worse. So actually, go to Japan, go to Korea, and a number of other countries. I mean, they've had to put stuff on the sidewalks to tell people when to stop.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so we think we got it bad. We got nothing compared to some of those countries, like nothing.
I saw one of these things where actually water will pour on you if you're walking up to a street and it's a red light. Meaning that there's cross traffic.
Yeah.
And if it senses that you're walking, continue to walk, it will dump water on you. And it's because people are on their phones.
No shit. So it's basically hitting one of the other senses to make you actually look up and think for a second. And so
you don't die.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, back to somebody was talking about it earlier, is like, Darwin. I'm like, no, we've fucking stopped Darwin, unfortunately. I had no problem. I mean, I didn't.
But okay, so what the digital has done is it's taken away the other sensory input. Cross that street without looking at your phone, and you are taking in a vast amount of data. Your soft CPU is processing an immense amount of information. And it's making real-time risk decisions. We do this all day, every day as humans. We've talked about this 1,000 times on the show. We make those real-time risk decisions. In the digital realm, we go dumb and dumb because we're stoned as shit on the dopamine.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
It's hard to disagree.
Have you seen people's faces when they're scrolling their phones?
Yeah.
Next time you're out and about, just look at their face. Zone, man.
Yeah, and then when they get mad, they're like,
right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, you're right. It's
crazy what you can do with these things too to manipulate people. I mean,
imagine
getting into the data stream and going and sending your own data while their head is down doing the whatever things. Because I find it sometimes, I'll read a tweet or something and it'll be like, it gets under my skin, and it might ruin my mood for a little bit, 5-10 minutes, or until I can process or whatever. That's a fucking waste of time too.
Don't engage the trolls.
I want to fucking set
Ooh,
the
yeah.
trolls on fire.
I know,
No,
but
that
okay, so I had to have a talk with my wife about this early on when she started social media and for healthy hoo-ha. This lady said, and we were having these like 15-minute conversations, and I'm like, I have no time for what some lady said on the internet. Like, no, this has got to stop, sweetie,
Right?
princess. Because she's like, and then I told her this, and I'm like, no, stop.
No,
Pump the brakes.
Marlis does the same thing on Facebook.
I can't. I'm sorry. I love you. Let's talk about something meaningful.
Right? Well, and yeah, there'll be fun things because there's certain things that I can't do today because of my position, because of what I do, right? You know, I represent FR Secure, I represent Security Studio. There's certain boundaries I can't cross, certain things I can't say that I would love to say, certain political things I'd love to say that I can't say, certain, you know, because people will take offense. People, you'll hurt their feelings, and God forbid you do that nowadays. But I'm looking forward to the day when I separate, you know, when I go into that, you know, 818 days, then I can start saying more shit that I want to say. Like, you know, buck up, buttercup. You know what I mean? Come on, let's go. The hell, you know?
Okay, all right. I got a challenge for you. You can say it.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of saying it. You can say it. I mean, again, the civilized English language is very useful.
He can say it in 800 days because 800 days from now, we don't know what else is not okay to say.
No. Here's my challenge. Here's my challenge. I'm right there with you because I got yelled at for not only calling somebody using the F word apparently in business, but shit's back of Muppet fart apparently is also on the no list. That was this week's. I'm actually trying for something next week. We'll come up with something else for next week. There's ways of saying it. I will. There are ways. You need to. I gotta find you the English book. There's the English insults, French insults, the ability to actually insult somebody and still make them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
My challenge to you is not to bottle it up, because if you bottle it up, it's going to come out sideways, it's going to come out backwards, it's going to come out all sorts of different ways. My challenge to you is do what I've had to do, which is find a different way of vocalizing it that still gets the point across and still makes the person pause and think without actually calling them a shit spackle Muppet fart or a complete yeah.
I'll definitely learn that. And what I do now to cope with it is I have, you know, reams of notes on certain things, and so I just jot them down, right? It's my way of getting it out of my brain. Or I'll go for a bike ride, and then just like you go for a, you know, take the boss, you know, for a spin.
Hovering nicely. I see you're hovering nicely in the bell curve, you know, insulting somebody's intelligence, something like that. Or, you know, I hope your day is as pleasant as you are. You know, things like that, people won't even think about. And then like X amount of point of time later, they'll be like, you son of a bitch. And you haven't said anything wrong at all. You've been very polite. Yeah, there's some actually amazing ways of doing it.
Maybe we'll start just a series of those things, statements where you can say things, you know, and refer to it. There's probably a site somewhere where you can do that.
We'll come up with stuff. I know I'm actually just looking at some of the stuff online because there's a book. There's actually a book out there. I've got to find it. It's actually a beautiful one. It's a very, very civilized English one, like proper civilized English way of doing it.
Jesse's going to get pissed at me.
Oh, absolutely. Believe me, this is slowly but surely part of my subterfuge of undermining the, you know, basically
the
bringing you back
colonials.
into the, damn right. This is bringing you back into the fold, basically, you know, one person at a time. I figured a few lifetimes it's going to take me, but it's fun doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, there'll be a day when I won't even have to use the nice words. I can just use whatever words, you know. I do look forward to, because one of the things I genuinely like to be is just be myself. You know, that's what I like in other people too. That's why, you know, there's many reasons I love you guys, but you guys are genuine fucking people. There's no bullshit here, right? This
Yeah.
is what you see is what you get. And, you know, the, like Dell, that's why we hit it off so well today. I mean, she is absolutely genuine. It's
She's
the
awesome.
bullshitters that can just go, you know, kind of fuck themselves. And I think a lot of bullshitters don't even know that they're bullshitters. You know, they've just convinced themselves they lack the ability to reflect upon themselves. They're like, wait a second, all I spew all day is bullshit.
And so this goes back to something that I still have a hard time with. Ryan, you and I have talked a little bit about this, and I think Evan, you and I have, which is the inner voice. This we've had this conversation, and I literally, I mean, actually, I remember putting a post out about it, and there were people that were like, "No, I don't have one." There were a lot of people that said they did, but that to me, is this something that's born? Is it cultivated? Is it nurture? Is it nature? I
Well,
cannot believe that there are people.
according to Dr. Blankenweb's student who's writing this thesis paper, it's because we are not using the proper learning models. That the big contributing factor to a lack of critical thinking. And Ayelet actually put something in the chat earlier about a story or a study, I mean, where they gave some kids a toy and it had some hidden features, and the kids that they told about the features found some of them, and the kids that they didn't tell about the features and just let them figure it out found most of them.
What was that? Oh, what was the movie? I ended up getting it. The box, Hidden Features. We need to give all kids need to have that box. The Pinhead one. What the hell was that damn thing?
Hellraiser.
Yes, there we go. Now, you want to talk about a toy with some hidden features?
Right? Gonna let demons into our houses now. Shit, what the hell's Lydia playing with now?
Is that a portal to hell that just opened? What's
Damn
going
it.
on?
Who gave her that fucking toy? Yeah.
But that's kind of what we did when we handed them a smartphone. Was we gave them a portal to hell. We did. Okay, I got some. There were some stats about depression rates in teen phone use that are alarming. I think that's another thing we got to talk about is the mental health impact aspect. Right. So these stats are, let's start off with that 3.1 billion people as of 2018 were using social media.
Right. Yeah, it's 4.
It's way up. We're almost 5. Yeah, it's because people connected at the moment. We're over 5 billion, like 5.5 billion or something currently.
So they're saying that teens who spend 5 hours a day or more are 2 times likely to be depressed. Single females are more addicted to social media than any other group. 71% of people sleep with or next to their mobile phone. I'm guilty of that because the charger next to the bed and emergency calls.
Same thing.
No house
totally
phone.
Guilty.
Well, there's no house phone. So that statistic I don't put a lot of weight on because I don't check my phone in the middle of the night.
Well, my alarm clock is my phone too. So
right.
Yeah.
10% of teens check their phones more than 10 times a night. Here's the one that scared me. 50% of people driving while using a smartphone are checking social media.
I see that shit all the fucking time because I'm in a big truck, right? I drive an F-250.
You to look.
I can see down on people. And one day I was coming home with my son and I said, let's count how many people we see on their phones as we drive by. And we counted, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the 30s. I'm not that far from where we drove, from work to home. But 30 some odd people we saw on their phones as they're driving. And some of them don't even try to fucking hide it. They're like this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now, in all fairness, in the analog days, we used to see people reading newspapers, making coffee, putting on their makeup.
Yeah.
My best, going down the M4, I used to commute in and out of London for a while. My best was going down the M4, a guy shaving and breakfast at the same time. I'm like literally bowl of cornflakes and shaving, like with the electric razor, thankfully, not a fucking wet shave, but electric razor. And I'm following him. I'm like, and I went by and I backed up and I'm like, it was a WTF moment. It was just like, and I'm like, this is going to be one of those days. Yeah, just just, yeah.
But that took talent. You had to know how to drive with your feet. You know what I mean? You had to be somewhat talented to do the hands-free maneuver.
We used to, and I'll admit this freely now, when Mike and I and a couple of other folks, we used to go climbing on the weekends when we weren't being deployed or we weren't on active duty. We would go climbing and we would come out of the base in the car. First stop would be to the chippy, so fish and chips, and then we drive up to the Cairngorms or drive down to Wales or wherever.
Chippy?
Like that. Yeah, proper chippy, like a proper chippy. We stop off at the chippy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I used to love, and we'd be driving. You'd be driving with your knees because you'd be eating fish and bloody chips, and we'd all be eating fish and chips. You'd be driving with the bloody knees the whole time, and it was a manual car as well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you got all this addiction, because I think, okay, we can all admit, I think you'd be hard to make a case that people aren't addicted to technology today, right? So, and I think we've called out, quite a few negative things, right? The mental health issues, distraction, the inability to think critically. I think, technology is a contributing factor to that. So a lot of negative things. What are some of the positive things that come from, all this additional technology?
I'll go slightly sarcastic because I'm not necessarily sure if it is a positive thing. We are able to save more lives. Unfortunately, we're able to affect more lives, but I'd also argue we're able to save more lives as well.
Yeah, I could see that.
The ability to reach people, the ability potentially to monitor, the ability to allow people to interact more effectively from an ER, EMT, first responder, all of those capabilities, the technology capabilities to potentially get the necessary experience and the necessary knowledge to be able to save somebody potentially right to the edge is an amazing capability that we've not had, we haven't had before. So I think that is fantastic. That comes with its knowledge, the ability literally for every single one of us, for good or for bad, to have access to an amazing array of knowledge. I'm going to ignore, we don't know what's true and what's false. We can deal with that in a little bit. But that vast amount of information that we can tap into, I mean, it's unprecedented. We grew up with the books, with the
Encyclopedia Britannica.
God, yeah, we grew up with encyclopedias. Yeah. Now, I mean, it's unprecedented the amount of knowledge that we can. I was looking up. There was a pretty nasty landslide over in India, northern India.
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, I was reading the report. They actually finally released the report on it earlier this week. There's no way on this planet I would have access. I love geography. There's no way I would have had access to that 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So I love the fact that I can actually look at that stuff and weaken stuff. So to me, that knowledge to save lives, to enrich people, to help people at the edge, I think is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Did you know I majored in geology?
No.
Yep.
No shit. Oh, so
the reason why I chose that, so I was I was an athlete in college. And so when you were an athlete in college, you had, your own tutors, you had all kinds of, kind of cool shit. And what the fuck would you call it? Advisor? I'm always a procrastinator. I'm a last minute kind of guy. And so she was on me like forever about, you need to declare a major. You have to choose a major. So I got to the point where I was like, all right, which one should I choose? And she's like, well, it's going to have to be something liberal arts because you didn't fucking specialize in anything. I'm like, all right, what are my choices? And so she went through the list and I was like, okay, tell me about that. She got the geology and she said, yeah, and the cool thing about geology is you get to go out on these, field studies. And it sounds like it's a lot of fun because basically you are looking at rock strata or doing studies, all day. And then they kind of party all night. I was like, fucking sign me up. Yep. So that's why I became a geology major. It was because of the parties. And yeah, I don't remember most of it because I was drinking so much back then. But thinking of addiction, because I am an addict, right? I'm an alcoholic, who stopped drinking, 20 years ago. So we're well on that path. But when I think of addiction, I think of, there's good and bad uses of things, right? You've got something. It's not that the something itself is necessarily bad. It's how you use it.
Yeah.
So when you think of like technology, I think there's just a lot of people who are addicted and a lot of people who do abuse it, but there's lots of good uses. I know in my own life, because I don't feel like I'm necessarily addicted to technology. To me, it's very convenient. It's convenient to have a map that tells me how to get from point A to point B without getting lost, right? Okay. It's inconvenient for me to look up, I have a question about a thing, to look it up quick and find my answers quick.
Yeah.
But I'm not, social media, I could take it or leave it. I could kind of give two shits about it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like it.
So I think for the people who use technology that aren't addicted to it, I think it's just about all good, really. I mean, I enjoy the shit that I have. I don't have Alexa and all that other shit because that's not the convenience I'm looking for. The convenience I'm looking for is, enrich my life.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So actually this brings up Ryan. I was segue-ish for a second. It's a tool. We determine how we use it.
Correct.
And I think that's where it gets kind of fuzzy in some ways,
but it's not just a tool. Just like it's not just a phone or just a camera or just a typewriter or just the 5,000 or just the way we date and meet other humans. I mean, we have integrated technology into our dating and sex lives, and we've talked about this on the show frankly, in some disturbing ways, right?
No.
And so I think that it is not just a tool. And I think that's inherent in part of the problem is it's so complex and it serves so many purposes that we've just genericized it to this thing we call my phone. Mm-hmm. But it's how we're connecting with other humans these days. If you want to get a date, you're going to have to use your phone. There's no way around it. Like if you walk up to people in public now and you're like, hey, what's up? They're like, I don't know. What is up? Why are you talking to me? I don't know.
They'll fucking mace you.
Right. It's like, and then the whole movement that we had that, was good to be had, but also then made guys more gun shy.
Yeah.
Right. So now that just further reinforces the digital approval, because now I've been approved digitally. That's a lower risk proposition. And now that I've been approved digitally, now we can meet in the physical realm. And I don't think we can ignore those aspects, especially with our youth, because I think they have a different relationship with their device than we have with ours. And I know I have a different relationship with my device than you have with yours, Evan. And Chris is in the middle of the two of us. So he has his getaway time. Okay. Yep. But I will straight up leave the phone at home. That's cool. I don't need it. I'm going to be gone for the next hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah. And I do the same thing.
Do you? That's good. Cause if something happens to me, then so be it. At a certain point, not everybody needs to know where I am every waking second of every day. Not everybody needs to be able to get in touch with me. And sometimes you got to literally disconnect.
Yeah. Although so Saturdays is my disconnect day, and my evenings between 6 o'clock and 9-10 o'clock at night are my disconnect days. Saturday I've been doing the weight posts, and I'm actually trying to balance that because I want to do them, but I'm also kind of in that I really actually want to take that step back and leave the tech the hell alone. So I'm kind of in that. We'll see. The weight posts might actually come out on Sunday, and it'll be like, guys, I love you, but Saturday is my disconnect day. To hell with you all. So we'll see.
Well, I think the fact that the three of us, 'cause I don't feel like the three of us are addicted, like I see many others.
We have our thing. We're not full blown junkies, guys. Okay, we're functional addicts,
Yeah.
right?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Right. We're not. We're not
Actually, I
full-blown
have
junkies.
lost it. I don't know where I put it.
But I think it's easier for us to see the addiction when you're not addicted.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I see the things that people do, and it really breaks my heart, because when you look at where things are going, if you look at the context of where we started with all this and where we're at now, and if we continue down this path, it's not pretty. It's a bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the biggest fear goes back to something we touched on earlier. Not if, but when it turns off.
I'll
And
be
if-
in Puerto Vallarta.
And I'm gonna give you guys the same advice I gave my kid. If there's ever a day or time that all of a sudden your phone turns off, or maybe you're not on your phone, but you notice other people looking at theirs confused and strange, looking up and looking around, that's
Yeah.
time to run. You need to get as far away from tall buildings as fast as you can, because shit's about to unravel. You got about 15 minutes to get out of that.
Yep. And on the way to wherever you're going, stop and grab as much water as you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
That's
it's
going to
about
be
to
the
get
number
weird.
one commodity.
Or
You'd be able to sell that water for some sweet ass shit too later on.
or know where the freshwater spring is.
Yep. Yep. And have some guns, because for the other people that also know where it is. Yeah. That's another advantage of driving a big truck, man. I can get a shitload of cases of water in the back of that truck.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
don't
Or
mess
cases
with
of water bottles full of gasoline.
Apparently, yeah.
No. Gasoline will be
Not coming out of the pump.
Yeah. Big time.
no, yeah.
Because if
Gasoline will
if the phones die, it's because the sun burnt. You guys know that, right? But do you all remember your history on when the telegraph
Oh,
worldwide
yeah.
burst into flames because
Yep.
the sun decided to burp? Which, by the way, it does pretty regularly, and we're about
Yep.
due.
I was going to say, there's some conversations that are happening about that. Not the what if, the when if scenarios.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of wins coming. You know what I mean? There's I was reading a bunch of things about, being, I guess, the geology days,
Yeah.
about what's going to happen, in Yellowstone.
Oh man, that caldera is absolutely amazing. Well, actually, worse than that. I mean, that one's at least there's a time ticking on that one, and it's potentially still quite a ways out. Depends upon what
Right.
that chambers does underneath. For me, honestly, I'm waiting for California to end up next to Hawaii. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, we could send them there. That'd be fine with me.
The Earth is
There won't be any
gonna
left.
deep
They're all
that
going
one.
to Boston.
Hey.
There won't be any There won't be any Californians left. They're all moving to Austin.
Son of a
bloody
bitch.
Colorado and my neck of the woods. I love you all, but fuck off.
Yeah, just as long as they're not coming to Puerto Vallarta, they can go wherever the hell they want. Stay up here.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, it's Jesse and I were talking about this as well, because we were having that conversation about, basically heading back to Nebraska, at what point and when will we know it? I'm like, yeah, probably when the electronics fell. That's about the time to head back to Nebraska really quickly.
Well,
As soon as they don't work anymore, it's game
Yeah.
on.
Now, do you notice, like, for me, the best memories in my life and the best quality time in my life is when I'm not around technology.
Yes.
Always. Even this morning, I got up early and I sit out here, and you hear the birds chirping, and it's just, you just take it in. My wife comes out, she sits down, we just have a conversation, no phones, none of that shit. And we've gotten, kind of in a habit of doing that, but those are the best times of the day. The best time of the day wasn't, yes, we had a great demonstration with, the state of Florida today. And we had a bunch of really good things happen today, work-wise, but none of that shit stacks up.
Right.
It just doesn't. I made this decision when I was, I don't know, consciously, maybe 5 years ago that I was no longer going to buy stuff. I was going to buy memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, because that stuff will live on when I'm gone. So, all right. So we've got, there are good things and bad things. Now let's talk about security. Where the fuck is security in any of this shit?
So it's absent because it relies on the human component, which is why the three of us are working on a solution to solve that somewhat.
Damn right.
I had an epiphany about a week ago, and it's been building for months. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Why is it 25 years? Same problem, same problem. Why are you okay? Let's shift messaging. Okay, that kind of works, but it doesn't really stick. And I finally had enough people just kind of look at me and go, dude, I don't care. And I'm not going to fix it.
Yep.
You
Yep.
built the shit. You fixed the shit.
Yeah.
I do not have these problems in any other aspect of my life, you know, to this degree.
Okay, so you built the shit, so fix the shit. Why don't we do that same fucking thing with the software makers, the vendors, and everything else in the fucking industry? Where's the accountability there? So if we have consumers who are telling us just fix the shit, because that's what would actually change something, is if you did care and if you did actually demand that we fix the shit.
Yep.
That would fix the shit. Because the reason what we're fighting here is we're fighting not only the ignorance or indifference, you know, but we're also fighting these very powerful forces within our own industry who like it the way it is because they're making ass loads of money the way it is. If you fix the shit, they're not going to make their money.
Right.
And don't think that that's not a thing, right? I mean, that's a thing. When I hear some of the things that come out of the mouths, when I hear some of the things that come out of the mouths of powerful people in our industry, people who run powerful companies in the security industry, say the things that they say, to me, it's so obvious that they don't want to fix the fucking problem. Just keep selling more shit, make more shit, sell more shit. If you want to solve it, so, fuck, the solution's right fucking in front of you.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, hell, let's face it, the three of us have sat down with others and had some bloody good conversations around how to do something about it. And hell, we're working on it, let's face it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think
the same thing of like there's so many problems in our just in the world that it's like, if you wanted to fucking fix it, you'd fix it. Like the border. Right. You want to fix the fucking border? Fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck are we doing?
Well, and that comes down to effort. The other thing I think we lack in the current era that the technology has, through convenience, I believe, disabled us a bit to lend that helping hand. Right? Like there's an app for that now. I don't need to have a good relationship with my friend or my neighbor to get that couch moved. I can just download the app and push a button and somebody will come move my couch. And I think as you start to break that stuff down, right, you start disabling the person from being able to do certain things or think certain ways or take certain, you know, you can't have a community if you have nothing in common. And if your community is solely digital, I believe, back to analog human, I believe that's incompatible with your being as a human. And so that creates dysfunction.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that, man. We were built to be social creatures. It's been since the beginning of, you know, mankind, yep. Right? We tribed up, we had community, we spent time around the fire, face to face, having discussions, doing festivals, all these other things.
Now we're spending time around the Twitter. Now we're spending time around the Facebook.
It's not the same.
But we're evolving. All right, I'm playing devil's advocate from this one for a minute, but now we're evolving because we are becoming more digital humans. We are.
But our hardware isn't evolving.
Not yet.
I don't know if we make that turn.
Well, and you could. I mean,
I'm pretty sure. So I got to go here for a second, Chris. God's design was perfect, so there's no upgrade coming to it. But
right. Well, there's that, but there's also the empirical evidence, right? I mean, just look at what's happening. Right? We have problems today that we didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's got to be attributed to something. So if you use, you know, the critical thinking and try to figure out what's actually changed? Why would it be like that? I think
But-
technology, yeah, and
but
I
I mean-
can't conclude it, but
Oh.
because I think if we could conclude it, then we could probably figure out a way to ban it, right? But
Well, I mean, okay, so this is where it's going to get interesting, because again, we're fighting. To me, this is the BYOD fight all over again, and pick your battle on this one. We ain't fighting this shit. It's not going away. The
Right.
challenge then becomes one of, I mean, you think about it. Okay, so I can't make that interaction more palatable for you. So now I'm going to give you a better app. Now I'm going to make it more interactive. I mean, Ryan, you said about the human interaction. Well, now I can actually put embedded tech around you, on your body and around you, to make it a more more immersive experience. Now I actually give you a set of 3D goggles to bring you into the 3D version of Facebook or the Olympics or everything else. So what we're doing is we've said, okay, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, my CompuServe gave me the flat version. That was my two-dimensional version of the internet. Let's say one-dimensional in essence. The two-dimensional version of the internet is kind of what we've had for a while. Now we're getting the more immersive experience of the internet, which means we're just going to get more. So when we do complain,
this is where Japan is ahead of us, right? I mean, they've got right
robot everything.
Yeah.
Right. So if you watch what's happening in Japan, I mean, the family is essentially dissolved, for the most part. Yeah, birth rates are down, so they're not reproducing. So eventually that society will become extinct. I mean, if you go this path and everybody went this path, we wouldn't reproduce anymore. We'd just be having sex with our dolls. Yeah.
Fancy sex robot. Well, so Chris, there was a movie that they made back in the day. It's called Idiocracy.
Oh boy.
A lot of technology. They had a lot of technology.
Right?
Yeah. And then there was Wall-E, another prophetic film.
That was an interesting one. Yeah,
keep going this way, right?
Because
you do have the immersive tech. It's cool as can get out. I've done some VR stuff without being in the suit and had physiological responses.
Yep.
Right? Vertigo sensations and motion sensations and all kinds of fascinating stuff, because it was hijacking the circuitry. And
there's another thing that we didn't talk about here either: the addiction to pornography.
Yeah,
that's a
real fucking thing.
That's what the internet was invented for crying out loud. That's not an addiction. I mean, that's not an addiction. That's a solution.
Did Bernard Eversley really think of that when he put together the web?
Probably not.
No, but when he needed to fund it, he did.
No, probably. But there's studies on that and what that does to families, what that does to sex drive, what that does. It becomes to a point where I don't get the arousal from physical human beings anymore. My wife could be standing in front of me, the person that I think is, the pinnacle of beauty, buck naked, and I get no arousal out of it at all. Instead, I go to my computer.
Yep.
That's the thing.
But and so we keep going down this rabbit hole, and I think we'll get to the point where maybe the regular internet isn't providing it, so the 3D immersive comes in, and then the 3D immersive isn't providing it. So now I've got to look at embedded technology. Now I have to look at what I can actually do to supplement that embedded technology, and we just keep going and we keep going and we keep going. This is
and then it ends up in destruction, because one of the things that irritates me about us as human beings is how we fuck with things that are perfectly good the way they are. Like we were talking, Ryan, you and I were talking about backups, right, in the podcast. Get out that old fucking DLT tape. The fucking shit worked. It saved your backups. Put that shit back on and it won't get ransomware.
All right.
Why do we have to? Because it was convenient. It was easy to just click mouse buttons and not have to change tapes.
So I want to throw my closing thought here on this addiction piece real quick.
Go for it.
So I believe that part of the problem with the porn addiction, the social media, just technology addiction in general, is that we are receiving a volume of stimulus that we get there's no physical corollary to. In the physical world, you cannot do enough things in a short enough time span to generate enough adrenaline and enough endorphins and enough norepinephrine and all the other beautiful brain drugs that you make when you do
ride a fucking motorcycle.
Right, riding your bike, right?
No shit, especially in this country.
Right.
But in 10 minutes of porn, social, whatever, you've gotten a week's worth of high.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you from.
So hold on, let me tie that thought off.
Yeah.
So, and this is just an unformed thought, but maybe like other substances that fuck you up and ruin your life, we regulate how much you're allowed to consume. Maybe social media is as dangerous to you as going to the bar and pounding drinks all damn day. And well, that's right, we have laws about that. The bartender has to cut you off at some point because they're not allowed to feed you drinks to the point that it makes you dangerous to others or makes you likely to die or whatever, right? So they have to cut you off. Now, if you know the right bars, that takes a little bit longer than the other ones, but nonetheless, every bar will 86 you at some point.
Yeah.
Do we need to start looking at the addictive nature of these apps and services and ask ourselves if it is equal in strength to a month of cocaine in one sitting? How many sittings are applicable to be doled out? And don't even get me started on the developing brain aspect of it. When you're hammering a child with that much dopamine, well, their brain's still trying to form.
Well, I think there's a counter to that. I think I don't like forcing people to do things. You know what I mean? You could regulate it for sure. Regulation ends up to be whoever is in control of the regulation themselves is the one who's in power and uses that against others.
I
I'm
know.
not a big fan of that. But I think what you do is you force people to be fucking honest about this shit. These are the consequences. This is, if you want to make this choice, this is what's going to happen, or this is what could happen, right? So take like smoking. You haven't banned it. Maybe you should, but there are people who choose to do it, people who choose not to do it. They choose not to do it because they understand what the consequences are for doing it. Same kind of thing with, I think we go down the same path with social media and technology, and then let you make the choice and then let Darwin take it from there, right? So if there's certain people you just can't fucking save, I'm sorry. No matter how much you want to, they're just destructive fucking people and they're going to die.
Yeah, but we regulate cigarettes, we label cigarettes, and we don't let cigarettes get sold to minors.
Shouldn't let cigarettes get sold to
Right.
minors.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Hold on. There's the difference between what our best efforts.
True. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the point is, then I think maybe Mr. Tim Cook should make the Apple phone go ding. Hey, you've had like 3 hours of this already.
It does.
Are you sure you want to keep going?
It does. Every single week, it tells me what my statistics are.
Mine too.
Opt out of that?
I think so.
Buggered if I know. Yeah, who knows?
I don't
All
know.
right, so I'm playing devil's advocate on this one. I'm gonna go. I know you love your human in its current form, but that's its current form. That's like a chapter of a book. I don't believe this is the final evolution of the human race. I believe that we are moving more and more towards a digital embodiment, for want of a better way of putting it. Here's a couple of reasons why. One, the human plumbing system isn't exactly perfect, no matter which way you look at it. Let's be honest. The human body breaks.
But I'll argue against that because I think it is if we hadn't fucked up all the chemicals and shit that we put into our body.
Yeah, I got the baseline plumbing system as a pain in the ass. We'll just go with that one. Literally, sometimes.
Yeah.
Secondly, the body breaks down. If
by design.
Great. That's by design. I don't want my damn body to break down. I have no desire for my body to break down. If I can look at a digital alternative or a digital synthesis of an architectural system that would allow my body to continue in such a way that I can function adequately, great. I'm all for it. I want to look at evolution. And here's
one of the things that's interesting about human beings and is our belief, our pride that we think we know more than we know, right? And so we think we do these things like, oh well, this is what I would do, and then I think for every problem a man solves, he creates two more. maybe more, right? So you solve a
That-
problem, but you didn't think of the consequences for
Yeah.
that far down the road. You
Totally.
couldn't put shit into context.
Yep.
And so you end up creating this fucking quagmire of shitstorm. That's because I think, on the surface, I think your idea is awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
But what's not known are what are all the consequences that come along with it, and would you be able to back it out? Right?
Oh, they're horrendous. No, first and foremost, the consequences are potentially horrendous. Let's temporarily ignore the power consumption consequences of what we've already created. We have a digital currency that consumes more power than the 11th largest country on this.
Isn't that crazy?
Like that's just ridiculous. It's just like a WTF moment. So if we do look at the synthesis architecture, now we have to go, what does it actually take to consume it? Now, can we outthink our way from a power consumption standpoint? Probably yes, if we cover most of Africa in fucking solar cells, not a problem. Or then we have the haves and have nots. Now we have the social dilemma. Who goes digital? Who stays manual to make sure that the solar cells do what they want to do? All those other conversations. However, we're not going to stop this from happening. So we're charging headlong on with this, and this isn't going to stop. This isn't going to slow down. It's going to get faster because more and more people have moved into this level and said, well, hang on, there is a potential alternative.
This is the apocalypse.
Oh,
Not before the sun
will
burps.
not dispute that.
Not before the sun burps. Sun's gonna burp before we. I think we've been here before. I think we've been here a couple of times.
Who,
and I think
who knows what's going to happen?
Corrects us.
All I know
I don't
is
think
that
it will. I don't think it will.
we seem to be, as a human race, we seem to be hell bent on destroying ourselves.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this looks like fun. Oh fuck, that didn't work out right. Oh shit.
But that's okay. So perfect. Okay, so let's.
And not only that, but we repeat the same fucking mistakes, which is like just insane to me. It's like,
so think
here
about
we
this
go
for a
again.
second. Let's follow this for a second. Let's go back with Ryan. So let's just say we get to the point where we have basically taken X percentage of the population and said, hey, you're digital, have a nice day. And then the sun burps. We've solved population problems.
True.
I mean, we're down at what, 250 million, 500 million if you're lucky. Now, then we got the conversation of haves and have-nots, and what do we have left? Maybe that's where idiocracy comes from, or maybe not. Maybe it's the reverse. Maybe because maybe all of the, I mean, there's so many different ways this can go. We don't have physical prisons. You're in digital. Have a nice day. Goodbye. By the way, if the sun burps, sorry.
Right.
End of conversation. End of conversation.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be interesting to see where this goes, man. I don't know. I'm hoping I die before it gets too fucking hairy, because I don't really know.
No, I want to be a spectator on this one. I seriously. Yes.
So many people are going to get fucked, man. It's going to, if you hate seeing people get taken advantage of, you're going to hate that. You're going to hate it. Whoever's got control, whoever owns this thing is, come on, they're going to fuck everybody.
But are we going to end up with another kind of, I mean, so
you're not going to end up with your version of you. You're going to end up with whoever's in control's version of you.
Yes and no. All right. Yeah, I'll go yes and no on this one. Okay, go back 40 years. How many telco companies were there?
Well, there was AT&T.
Marvell.
Yeah.
There was Marvell. So fast forward 30 years, it is fragmented beyond reasonable belief. And the hackers, we're still here. Let's face it, we ain't gone away. I would argue 40 years time, let's say 40 years time, the whole digital thing, I don't think that control, for whatever, however the hell the human race does it, and whether it's by grand design, whether somebody has actually keeping a freaking eye on us or whatever, we managed to teeter right on the edge of that precipice with like one leg dangling off. And we still managed to figure it out somehow or other to keep going.
I don't see it playing out that way, man. I don't know how that would happen, because we've all got evil intent, man. We're all selfish, at the core, we all want what's best for us, right? I want what's best for me. No matter how much I want to say, I'm here to serve and I love people. I mean, there's always some self-preservation I'm more important than you kind of thing, right? And even if you are like, you know, say you're pure, right? I got pure motives, man. You can totally trust me. I will not fuck over anybody. I'll always tell you the truth. That's so fucking rare. And those people are the people that usually get taken advantage of, as opposed to the people who raise to the top. The people that raise to the top don't fucking care about stepping on you.
You're right. But again, look at the three of us. Look at what we're building. Look at what we're putting together. Look at how it's getting put together. That mentality won't change, physical world or digital world. So even, yes, you're right, there might be somebody doing that. There's still going to be a subset of people who go, hey, we can improve lives, people, and others.
Right.
Yes, we have our own selfish requirements for doing it, you know, to get rid of the X from hell, to make sure that a couple of the folks are taken care of, to make sure land is taken care of, to make sure you've got 800 days, you're in good shape, to make sure Ryan's family's taken care of. We've got reasons for doing it, but overall, it's also to make sure that others are taken care of. I don't see that going away, whether you're physical or digital in any way, shape, or form.
Well, what we're building, no, but it's what we're building. And when the powers that be, right? So let's say we get a lot of traction on this thing, and it's going and it's going and it's going. You know, Microsoft comes along and says, hey, I'll give you $26.5 billion for your fucking idea.
Yep.
You know, some of us might sell out on that. And I wouldn't blame you for that. Right. So then now Microsoft owns our thing, and our Microsoft, do you trust Microsoft in there?
No, but they have thing one. We take half of that 26.5 billion and we buy a fucking island, and we build buildings on the island, and we make thing number two, which is this digital inference interface. And we make it in such a way that we can do it more effectively. We've got lessons, we've learned our lessons, and off we go.
I'll try. Man, I'll die. These are helping people. This mission that I'm on is a hill worth dying on. I don't mind dying, trying it. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, totally.
When I've told people, you know, I'm here to fix the broken industry, and they're like, that's never going to happen. I'm like, well, I'll fucking die trying.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think today, the shit that we're doing is the right thing to do to help protect people, because I think we've gotten to a point where they're just going too fast, and they're not going to take the time to do the things that they need to do. So we're going to have to do it for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's, as much as I want to say educate.
You can to a degree, but honestly, if they don't care, they don't care. And if they can't if they can't do the metacognition, if they can't mentally get up into that space to go, hey, that's danger, even though I didn't feel it in my chest, even though I didn't see the traditional analog biologic, you know, signals. Yeah. That's danger. That's sketchy. That's whatever. If they won't or can't get there, then we have to. Or we're doing them a huge disservice.
Well, and what's the flip side? Because we've seen this play out in history, right? If you're a history buff, you've seen these same kinds of things play out. Totally. Civilizations rise and they fall.
Everything
right.
fails.
And they usually fall because they make a whole bunch of shitty decisions. Like you look at the Roman Empire. Fuck, they were awesome, right? The most powerful. And then they got fat, they got lazy.
Yep.
Pride crept in. I mean, I think there's so many parallels between the US and what we saw in the Roman Empire.
Oh, and Roman Empire, Assyrian Empire, old Chinese Empire, British Empire. I mean, I've done the talk. I've given a couple of talks on this. All the different races. I mean, good grief. Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll try our best to make this happen, but fuck, for all we know, the US won't exist in 20 years, and you know.
Well, again, okay, so let's take this another step forward. In 20 years, do we care if the US exists? The US is a physical entity. Do we care? Because the digital side, we've just spent the last 20 years building out the digital world that we've now been getting people into, and we're starting to immerse them, and we immerse them a bit more, and because they're complaining because they don't have social interaction, we immerse them a little bit more. And they don't have relationships, so we immerse them a bit more over here. And
on a global scale, I think I do care, because you know there's got to be checks and balances. Because if the U.S. doesn't exist, then China and Russia take this thing, take whatever we're doing. And it doesn't matter how much you want to do the, you know, whatever technology thing, they'll just take it and fucking own it.
It's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about all this stuff. I mean, predictions are neat because honestly, I don't even know what the fuck's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. Sunbug.
Yeah. I mean, tomorrow, I mean, I might die in my sleep tonight and, you know, be home with Jesus. And that's cool with me. Or I might live fucking 150 more years and have to deal with all, you know, maybe this is my hell, because this will probably be as close to hell as I get. You know, 30 years of hearing myself repeating the same fucking thing over and over and over again. 100 more years of this, and I'll be like, oh, come on. End it.
Come on, we'll have some fun along the way. We will have fun along the way.
I am having fun. And that's what makes, honestly, you guys are enriching to my life because, you know, you get to laugh about these things, you know, the frustrations that we deal with every day. It's not easy.
Right.
You know, I talked to, you know, people who are new to this industry, you know, or newer. And I asked them, you know, what do you want to be, you know, when you grow up? And the most common answer is I want to be a CISO. It's like, why the fuck would you want to be a CISO? You know, I mean, and the answer, I mean, I think the right answer would be, I hope, is because I really want to influence, you know, serving and protecting people, right? That's a good answer, I think, but the power thing and all that other shit. But you know, we deal with so much stress and some days are fucking really hard, you know, and having you guys here to laugh and bounce ideas and think out of the box, you know, means a shitload to me. So I appreciate you guys for that.
Same thing. Same goes. These are fun conversations. These are really, I love these conversations because it really makes you think and go, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate, but I'm not doing it for any other reason that I've got the idea and I just want to kick it around and see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, and I love other perspectives. I mean, the day you close your mind to other people's perspectives is the day you become a bigot and a fucking destructive piece of shit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, good discussion tonight, guys. We're at 12:09.
Yeah.
I love you with all my heart. You guys are beautiful people.
Same goes. Thank
Love
you.
you too, man.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, sticking it out with us. If it's Saturday morning and you're cleaning your house, hopefully you're using Pine Sol and Pledge.
Good advice. All right, brother. Take care.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys. Good night, everybody.